Um, this is why certain levels of poverty are required on a spiritual path, and why money or material wealth prevents you from developing like a relationship with God. So like if you're poor, like I am, I like every week, every month, I have to look and be like, well, how? I have to pray for an opportunity, like a job has to come in. I have to develop a relationship with somebody else. A door has to open, or I start having like huge problems. And that's just every week, right? No savings. Like we're at the poverty line. But so the jobs come in. Like something happens, and you start to, like, every week, you have to interact with reality in this way. You have to learn how to swim it and be held up by it moment to moment. If you have the instant that you have money, you don't have to ask. Like, you don't have to ask for the next week to be okay. And you'll lose perception, because whether or not you ask, whether or not an opportunity opens, whether or not you're swimming, you don't feel any different. Like the work is suddenly, it's not an opportunity, but you kind of have to do the work anyway, or you don't feel good. So you have to be like just constantly, you have to be constantly giving away your money at a rate that makes it so that you're genuinely feeling and relying on God in that moment to support you from moment to moment, or from week to week. And like having that I'm trying to think if there's like a way around it, and I don't know. So I think that's the blessedness of poverty, of people that are, the more and more poor you are, the more your survival for that day or that moment or whatever depends on your dialogue or your relationship with other people. And then that dialogue, that relationship, is your relationship with God. And so you're either asking for it, or I would say, if you're on the other end of it and you have the cash, heavy is the burden, right? To have control over money, and then to be having to give it away to a degree that is as uncomfortable as poverty, that is as uncomfortable as being exposed to the economic elements, of being exposed to placement in society, right? Like, that's what the money is. Like, being exposed to the medium that places you in society, the medium that places you in the supermarket or whatever, that places you in a home, right? And which is ultimately God, right? So God is that which provides for the food, that places you in a home. And the more that, like, wealth is control and choice over that placement, like your own. And so while I guess I would say it's like technically possible to remember this and do this as being rich, but I think not having the need, like the deep need, is stepping out of the water, and to step back into the water, you have to generate that need. And so it's just I can't even imagine doing it, right? Like, if you look at the impossibility of like what wealth does in terms of your need for God, you can almost be like, thankful that some rich people have to bear that burden. And be out of the boat, or be out of the water. Because I can't imagine it's hard for me to imagine being generous or giving enough or charitable enough that I would choose to have the same level of need as I do like in poverty. And it's the same thing with like it's the beatitudes or whatever. Blessed are those who are poor. Blessed are those who weep. Like I can't imagine ever, right? It's like if you're near death or if you're near somebody that dies, it's like the degree to which you appreciate life, right? When somebody that you dies in that moment where you don't take them for granted, it goes away, right? And then you have this opening of like, oh, I'm losing this thing, right? Would you ever wish that on yourself or anybody else? No. And so that's another thing for like wealth, right? Wealth is having your relationships intact, and poverty is like, oh, that person died. But then that's also when certain truths or when certain realities or when certain depths or when conscious perception of love is obtained or whatever. It's usually it's along with that death. It's along with that poverty. And so it's like, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, like the rich man's not going to get into heaven. And it's like, well, why not? How not? And it's like, the rich man's not going to get into heaven the same way that you're not going to appreciate that person for real until they're right at death's door. So you're not going to know God for real until you're poor. But simultaneously, that poverty is what the entirety of the moral universe is like centered around. Like, how do I be a good person to somebody else? Is that you try and alleviate their poverty. You try and give them more connection, more human relationship, more love. So all the ways that we are like ethical are also all the ways that like we want to share wealth with everybody. Right? So there's this tension between wealth, like symbolized by money, but right, that wealth is relational wealth of all kinds. Connection to the self, connection to other people, connection to God, right? That connection is there. And if it's taken for granted or not used, or if you're self-reliant, then the enjoyment of it dries up, or the experience of swimming dries up, right? To have no needs is to also simultaneously have no prayer.